Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and as you always know, you can like my videos, subscribe, and also get ready and check the sheet. I'm going to be putting more videos in there about Midnight. Now, this video is actually going to be about how sublety feels after a full clear, and maybe I have also done some dungeons of the raid in Mythic mode. Of course, after changes and everything, things are quite easier than expected. Bosses are dying very fast and things, but the spec itself doesn't feel super bad. Of course, if you have played Solid in Beta, you will feel that we still miss the Apex talents. The Apex talents are very strong for Solidity, but they are also super bugged. So you're actually not missing as much as you think. You still use Shadow Blade, Secret Technique, and Shadow Dance. Those are your main cooldowns. Banish is not as strong as usual, as you might already know. And even Dimensions is kind of a joke, let's say. The boss itself, as you can see, the first ad thingy just died after the opener thingy. And then I'm going to talk about my experience in the raid itself. I could go boss by boss, but they are kind of almost the same. You just go, blast them, ignore everything, and they just die. If your group is kind of decent, let's say. You're a Mythic Raider, a CE Raider, you won't have any issues to kill all of the bosses in a timely manner. We did a full clear in around 1 hour and a half, and we were a bit silly on some bosses, wiped. But unless you make huge mistakes or people are not accustomed about not getting all of the warnings that they should, things can happen. Now, I played the whole raid as Deathstalker. It's a little bit stronger in single target, but not hugely so, and also benefits a little bit more haste, because as you know, in raid we actually want to run quite a bit of haste. Around 30% or something like that should be what you want to have around. Now, one of the things that is actually true is that we are not as bursty as before. Of course, as you know, if you don't have super strong trinket anymore, because even with the prism, it's not as strong as before because of how everything works, and also because we are not stacking mastery and crit anymore. And so even if bosses have some up phases, they you won't see your damage go super high anyway. But we are still doing decent damage. Like if you get good snipes on ads and things like that, you can get decent damage on the whole rate. And if you look at logs, you can also see a lot of solitary rogues perform even without the heavy bugs of using extra enchants and other things. Now, let's go into the gear and things themselves that we want to check. Now, as you can see, we have changed a little bit our gear. I think this is because I have the haste part on the flask, but ignore it. This is mainly what you run, just 30 something percent haste if possible. And this makes it so your dance gets a little bit more than 8 seconds. 8 seconds is when it begins feeling quite a bit better. And also, it means that you had two dances that cover the whole blades situation. Those blades, as you know, it's 16 seconds now, and you should be getting double combo points, but it's not happening. It's a bug. This is why it is. It does work with Shuriken Storm for some reason, but we don't know why. So strong items like the Dimensions Ring, you can see here, kind of buggy, and also rings that have a lot more haste. This is the Aras ring. It also gave mastery. Mastery is still very good after haste. As you can see, even right now, I'm not running as much haste as I should, but still, also the trinket, the projector, and other things that gives a little bit of haste are kind of decent. Now, Prism is still very good in dungeons, so if you have that one, still equip it and you still want to use it. Haste is not as big in dungeons, you still want to have around 15 to 18%, but that's kind of fine. You get almost to 7 seconds. And that helps also with the secret technique cooldown. As you can see, my secret technique cooldown is less than 20 seconds. This means that I can use it on my first dance and then also on the third one. In the future, in the next expansion, if we do get to these haste values, we won't need as much because of the Apex, the values haste quite a bit because you kind of, let's say, cap your combo point generation. But we still have that trinket that gives us haste, making it able to get up to 20 something percent or maybe even to 30 with that trinket. One thing that you also need to know is that weapon procs and procs like, for example, Ascendance do count towards the dance duration and the secret technique cooldown reduction while they are up. They are dynamic, so if you don't know how dynamic things works, it's like while you have X amount of haste, you have the base cooldown of the spell and then it is going faster. So this is like an approximation. When you see 19 seconds here, it's actually 30, but it goes faster and it would go to 19. But if you have 2 haste procs, for example, from your weapons, it will go faster while those enchants are active, and then you will get maybe 1 or 2 seconds less, something like that. So it's not as clear cut as you might expect. One thing that is actually clear cut is the dance snapshots at the time that you use it. So if you have procs that give haste, or like if you have the crystal, I think it's kind of the only trinket that procs haste that is kind of decent for sub, and that one procs haste, you will get some extra milliseconds. Or if you are running the Flask of Alchemical Chaos, or if you popped your Temperate Potion, this is why it's important to pop the Temperate Potion before you use Dance, kind of a free tip, let's say, so it snapshots into your Dance. You could use the Flask that gives haste, but actually do not recommend it because then your pot won't give haste. Remember how it works. It gives you the benefits of all of the temperate flasks that you don't have, and then the chemical chaos one works so you have all of those. Now that is my experience in all of the bosses and all of the things. Talents haven't changed. You still run Weapon Master, and then for the bosses that have some adds, you take Weapon Master up and then you put Potent Powder. Everything else hasn't changed, and you might expect, why do we run Umbral Edge and Replicating Shadows if we don't have any of the shadow things? Because they work with Secret Technique. Mainly because of that, no, nothing else. Also, the other talents are not as strong as you might expect, like Bloomblade is not strong. First Dance is only once now. It's decent in Mythic Plus, but not in Raid. Perforated Veins is only single target. Lingering Shadow is super weak. The second point in Finality is also not big. And then Rotten and Gormau are also not that strong. Same thing with Shuriken Tornado. Even if Storm does decent damage, that's why you actually may talent this one in Mythic Plus. For Raid, it's never worth it because even if you're hitting 2 targets, if you get that extra clone damage, it's not going to be very big. But Potent Powder is going to buff all of your Black Powder casts. And now remember that we do cast Black Powder on 2 targets. Now another thing that you can do is, if you're going to be using Black Powder on 2 targets, but you also want a little bit of single target, you can choose or to have Momentum of Despair or to take Mass Casualty off, because this is not as strong, and put it on Unshakable Drive. And as you can see, as long as you have Momentum of Despair or Mass Casualty, you will be fine on this talent point situation. For Trickster, I actually haven't tried it a lot, and I have a short video that I will do about a cool thing that you can do with Trickster. But for now, that is everything about my experience with the spec. Now, having done a full clear of the raid, some delves, and also 1 or 2 dungeons, but nothing more about that. I hope you are enjoying sub, and do remember that we have the sheet that you can always check. It's in the description. Now I actually have updated the sheet, so it's the version 3. So it links to the Midnight one instead of the War Within or the Dragonflight one. If you are curious and want to know about the all things, you can do that. But for now, have a nice day, and I will see you on the next video.